It's Monday, March 11th, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, everyday technology.
Let's do this.
So, over the weekend, I come home from a thing like I do. Actually, I went to see Wolf Children, Moro Hosta's new movie.
Wolf Children?
It is...
Did they bite you?
No, it is the best. It is so good. But, and also, the main reason it was great, not the main reason, but a reason it was
great. Shouldn't you save this
great.
for Wednesday?
No, I'm just saying he was there.
We do have
right?
a Wednesday show this week.
I know, I'm just saying he was there.
We've seen him before.
And the kids, ask questions or whatever.
Just like last
And
time.
the first kid question was the best question ever. He was like, why did you make the movie so depressing? And his answer was great. He was basically, well, it's not really depressing if you're older when you watch it. So watch it again when you're older. And you'll see what your parents went through raising you. But, so I come home from all that, and there's an official notice on the door to the entrance of my building.
I saw this notice when I came in.
Because it's still there, and there's some law about how many weeks they have to leave it publicly noticed. It's duct taped to the window. And when I came home, I start reading it, and my first thought, because if you read it, until you get to the point where it only affects the stellar, it's basically the notice of everyone in this building's got to get the fuck out. So I'm reading it going, fuck me, there goes my week. Oh, cellar. So basically, I read this thing, I took a picture of it, just because, and then I walked inside, I went down to the cellar, and I looked at the thing it was referring to, and sure enough, there's two things down there, and there's a bunch of, and I hate to sound stereotypical, but there's a bunch of Mexican people moving out in a hurry. So my building basically had two illegal apartments in the cellar that were really big, relatively nice apartments, very similarly set up to my apartment, but they were in the cellar, and they were totally illegal. Now, it's not clear
usually when a building is built, and this building is kind of new.
This building's brand new. We're the first people to live in our apartment.
The inspectors come and make sure the building is legit. So was those apartments not there when the inspectors came when the building was built?
So when we moved in almost exactly a year after the building was built. It hadn't been fully occupied ever at that point. So I remember the first day when we moved in, I walked down to the cellar just because, you poke around the building and see what's what.
Yep.
And down there, there's a crazy boiler room, and there's a bunch of machine rooms, and there's a trash room, and all this crazy stuff. And actually, there's a lot of big stuff because it's a big building.
Yep.
And there's like the emergency egress hatches in case you need to get out from the exploding boiler or whatever. And there's a door, there's a white door that's always open. Behind that, it was just a little like sort of antechamber. And then beyond that, there were two apartments, just 0A and 0B, like apartment 0 and 0.
Okay.
And I never really thought much of it. And then from the back of the building...
0A and 0B, wouldn't they be... I mean, there's an A is the second floor.
What?
So
No. The A, B, C is just on each floor. There's an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever.
Oh, it's like that. Okay.
That's how my building is. What do you think the A is on our apartment?
I thought that the next one was, A for whatever.
So you thought I live on the 8th floor of the building?
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, either the building company just fucking put these illegal apartments straight up in the blueprint of the building, or...
Then how did they get away with that and putting them in the
Or
blueprints?
the blueprint of the building just had this area with two apartment-sized rooms that were designated to not be apartments, and then someone decided to turn them into apartments that look just like apartments in all the other parts of the building. So, I'm not sure how deeply I'll follow it, but I'm going to try to figure out what actually happened. But when I walked down there were straight up a bunch of Mexican people moving out in a hurry.
Are you sure they were Mexican? They could have
Yes.
been some other variety of people.
I'm pretty confident
And
they
you're
were
just
Mexican
racist?
because I work actually heavily in Latin America, and I can actually kind of tell the difference between like Colombians and Puerto Ricans and Mexicans and Argentinians just because I do a lot of business with them. I can tell by the accent particularly. But yeah, they were Mexicans, and they were moving out in a hurry, and I don't know what's going on, but I went down there, and there's crazy eviction notices on the doors that's basically like, if you come in here, you'll be fucking arrested. So,
I
yeah,
guess
we'll
the
see what
building
happens with that.
inspector showed up.
I feel bad for those people. I don't know if they were in on it or if they got scammed by whoever put those apartments there. But what's funny is it was like one of the reasons they can't live down there is poor ventilation, poor lighting, illegally installed gas line, which I'm not super happy about. And, it's funny, when I tried to buy that house in Beacon, it had an illegally installed gas line.
What is up with these illegally installed gas lines?
And it had an illegally installed kitchen and an illegally installed 5th and 6th bedroom.
What the fuck is up with this shit?
That's just how it goes.
If I ever get a building, right? If I ever had to build a building of any kind, I'm going to make the person doing the building, right, in a contract, accept all liability that the thing is 100% legal, and if it's not, they're going to pay to make it legal.
Yeah,
and
you know what's going to happen? You're basically not going to find anyone who will do the contract work for you.
Well, I'm going to have to pay to find someone who will make sure that everything they do
They'll
is
have
legal.
some sort of bonded insurance, and they'll take care of it. But yeah, so now I'm watching this crazy thing unfold, and it seems to have mostly unfolded. That notice
I'm
is
also
just still
going to
there.
call the inspector, whoever it is, to be like, hey, I'm having some shit done. I want to make sure it's legal before
so
it's
when I
fucking
got
done.
the inspection of that house I was going to build, right? The guy's walking around, and he looks at the kitchen. He's like, yeah, this is totally... I'm going to bet you money that there is no permit for all the work that was done here. This isn't a multi-family dwelling. And he was very honest about it, but he was like, tell you what, if and when you buy this house, if you want to keep it, let me know, and I'll draw up blueprints for the planned work you expect to do. And then you can get them approved, and then you can have them come and inspect the completed work after a reasonable interval. Or you can... have me draw up the blueprints of what you want it to look like after it's fixed, and we can arrange that the inspections happen after it is actually fixed. And he was pretty open about how much it would cost to do those two things.
That's just fine.
That building had a much more egregious thing. It had a sliding glass door on the second floor to nowhere.
As in you slide it open, walk out and die?
Yes.
Or at least break your leg?
And it was a story and a half up because it was a bi-level and it was kind of situated on a hill. And basically, there was a deck that either never got built or had to be torn down.
So there should have been a deck outside of that door, but instead it was just nothing.
And it was like 20 feet up. And there was a corrugated steel shantytown shed next to the house.
Directly underneath the sliding door?
No, that was actually off to the side.
Okay. Ooh.
And
Why don't you just put the pool underneath that sliding door, and then you're all set?
So yeah, the rules around having pools installed in suburbia means that you never want a pool installed, because if a random kid breaks into your property and drowns in the pool, you're at fault.
That's why I will have a system by which anyone walking onto the property gets shot, because then that will make me less liable.
Yeah, Scott, New York state law has a specific rule against so-called man traps.
I'm pretty sure the whole country has a law against man traps, but then is the pool not a man trap?
Is everything not a man trap?
I mean, it's basically a water-filled...
Is not life but a man trap?
It's basically a water-filled, piranha-filled... pit trap, right? I mean, it's a pit.
In a way, aren't we all man
And if
traps?
I drain it for the winter, isn't it just a pit? A pit is a trap. I mean, it's the most basic trap.
A pit is only a trap if you're trying to catch tigers or adventurers in a 10-foot by 10-foot configuration.
Come on, and then what do you do in the winter to that pit? You put a concealing tarp over the top of it. How is that not a trap?
When I was a kid on the beach one time, here's some technology. I made a possibly lethal man trap with a bunch of neighborhood kids in Lexington.
I have done this in a playground once. I took a bunch of sticks that I found, and I dig a hole, and I put the sticks face up in the hole.
Whoa, that's way worse than what I did.
And then I stepped in it and went, ow, and then I got rid of it because I hurt myself in my own trap.
Okay, mine was better and worse. We basically took some sticks. We dug a deep hole.
It's not like I sharpened the sticks. They were just sticks.
We dug a deep hole, like really deep. And then we covered it with sticks. We covered those sticks with fronds. We covered those fronds with leaves. We covered those leaves with sand. And then we went home. And we told our parents. And my dad was like, that is awesome. Now you're going to go dig it up before someone dies.
How deep was this pit?
Like 5 feet.
No one's going to die in that.
If you suddenly fell into a 5-foot pit, you might severely hurt yourself. And if the tide then came in.
You wouldn't die if you left out the essential pointy sticks face up.
So I learned you don't actually face them up. You face them at an angle inward. Anyway.
That's porcupine style.
That's not porcupine style. There's a specific name for that. Now, if you poop on it, it's, I think, a punji stick. I'm gonna look that up. 'cause
That's going to give someone an infection.
I learned about that in middle school.
I think
Anyway.
it's called a poop dibber.
Anyway, you got any news while I look up if this is a thing or if I just made it up from my childhood?
I actually don't have news.
No news? Yep, it is punji stick. So that fuck-filled, oh my God, okay, anyway. Don't Google image search that. Poop on a stick, people step on it, they get sepsis.
Yeah, it's what'll happen, sure.
Yeah, I learned that in middle school. We had to pick a novel from this box of novels that our teacher had in like 6th grade. So I fish around, I find this violent, crazy Vietnam trash novel that I don't know if it was there by design or by accident. But good God, it was that 500 pages of the word fuck. And that's where I learned about punji sticks.
Okay, so I don't have a tech news, but I do have something that our listeners say they enjoy, at least some of them say they enjoy, which is esoteric, really advanced technology bullshit.
Ooh.
So at work, right, got this problem. There's a thing called pypy. It's the place where you get your...
Pie?
No, you get your packages from the cheese shop because, Python the language... Monty Python, the cheese shop where you get your packages, right? So if the first one of these, at least that I know of, right, was called CPAN, which is still around. It's for Perl. So if you program in Perl and you need to get a helping library, maybe you want to work with SSL. So what you would do is you would do like CPAN something something and the name of the SSL library, and then your computer, it's sort of right. Your computer will go out to CPAN, find the SSL library, and then install it so that now when you load Perl, you can now use that library. So for Python, this package, repository is called pypy. And it's notoriously sort of slow and unreliable compared to, say, CPAN and the others, which are much better in those regards, right? So there's a few mirrors, but not many. There was a mirror at RIT. Apparently hasn't been updated in a very long time. It's way out of date, all right? So... and we had a problem at work where trying to access this pypy was like timing out. It wasn't working. So I tried to install something from Amazon and it was working just fine. So the connection between work and pypy was not good, but the connection between Amazon and pypy was just fine. So I'm like, what can I do about this? I will create my own private mirror of pypy. Right? On Amazon. That doesn't cost that much. It costs like 50 cents a month. It'll just take a long time to download the whole thing, right? And then when I'm at work, I can install things from our own private copy that I know I can keep up, right? Even if the real pypy goes down, okay? So I find how you do this. First, you have to install something from pypy, and then you run it, and it starts to make a mirror of the original pypy, and then you're all set. So I'm running this, and I let it go over the weekend, and I come into work this morning, and it says, error, something, HTTP response bad response evil. And I'm like, what the fuck? This thing is so broken, you can't. And then I go searching online, and I saw the funniest thing, which was a Google Groups post, and a guy was like, or news group post, and the guy was like, I was running Mirror D, and I got this error. After a long time, I couldn't figure out how to fix it, so I'm just not going to run Mirror D anymore. And then I'm like, well, that's where all those mirrors went to. So then I found in Bitbucket, there was actually a patch to make it work again. So I manually applied this patch to the mirror making thing and then started it up again. This is really a fucking problem. These pypy people got to get their shit together because none of the other programming languages have this problem with their repositories.
I've seen the opposite problem of a lot of people who want to write code in Perl have no idea how to get Perl modules. Like they don't
know how to, yeah.
Like they can't even figure out how to get them. And that's why you'll see so many people post just raw Perl code in a forum, and then people just take it and copy paste it into their Perl script.
I actually don't blame those people entirely, right? Because the fact is, when I had a degree in computer science, right? The two things they never taught you at all in 4 years.
Ooh, because I can tell you the things they never teach you in IT.
RIT, computer science education. Number one, they didn't teach us anything at all about the web. The only reason I knew how to make websites is because in high school I did HTML on my fucking own, middle school also, right? They did not teach you anything about the web at all. Zero. In college. None, right? Which is the number one way to make money these days.
Just the web, or how about networking in general?
Well, I mean, I took networking classes on purpose, but I think maybe one was required. I'm not sure. Anyway, and number two, right? They teach you how to program in the language, but they don't teach you anything about, development environments and setting up all that other stuff around the actual typing of the code and knowing how the code works. So like they don't tell you how to go, get a library, install it and use it, right? It's like, that's it. It's like if you're learning C, they're like, oh, you just include IOStream and that's it. They don't tell you how to go and get, say, libxml and start using that. They tell you how to write an XML parser.
What's interesting is I see just people I talk to or hire or interview from non-RIT schools. It's the opposite. That's the stuff they learn, but they don't learn the actual core fundamentals of programming.
No, well, you need to learn both. You need to know how to program so that you could perhaps write your own library, but you also need to know how to go and get other people's code and then use it yourself and reuse it and install and get and do and such and such.
Well, I've seen that, in IT it was kind of the same thing. Like they would teach you how DNS worked, like what DNS was and how it worked, but they would not tell you anything about what daemon it was or how to run it.
Yeah, it's like, what is bind? There's
or
a thing called bind. You apt-get install bind. The config files are here. You edit them like this.
Yep.
You restart it like
All right,
this.
so what about named? What's that?
It's just an alternative.
Yeah, so why would you use one over the other, and where do you get either one?
Bind is like the do everything one, and
we're running Red Hat bullshit edition just because that's what's in the lab.
Well, what year is it from?
2002? 2001?
Well, any DNS that's comes with that on the CD or whatever is probably way out of date and insecure. Yep. So what you need to do is you need to go get the source code for the modern one.
Well, it's not going to help these people.
From the new version from the internet, and then compile it using the C stack on that
so
old
in general, in IT,
Red Hat,
they did not teach anyone even the barest hint of how to use Linux.
I took
it was assumed
a handful
that you just
of IT
knew.
classes that taught me bullshit that I already knew.
Yep.
But they were pretty much how to use Linux. I had to write like some shell scripts, and then
what did you take? OS scripting?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, OS scripting is the guys bash sed awk.
Yep, I took that
but
class.
That class assumed you already fucking knew how to, log in.
I knew all three of those things before.
Then why did you take that class?
Because easy credits. How do you think I fucking graduated failing Calculus 3 times?
I took that class when I was a freshman
times.
because it was a required class. Maybe
Yeah.
I took it as a sophomore. I don't remember.
It's also because
that was the class where the two cool kids were those of us who would type start X when we got there and have a GUI.
Anyway,
and other kids would be like, "How'd you do that?" I was like, "You're not going to graduate."
Because I chose a non-CS concentration of security, and basically there were these two IT security classes.
Oh God, talk about IT security
which
classes.
were useless,
yes.
by the way.
Yeah, I took the IT security
but
class.
I chose that when I was a freshman, and then the thing is, the prerequisites for those classes were things such as OS scripting.
Yeah, you know what? I took that security class and it was garbage. And I decided to not pursue the security sort of concentration stuff at RIT.
Well, I had to choose this as a freshman, and then it was already kind of, I would have had to pay to take other classes to change it up.
I changed it up because I had so many extra credits it didn't matter.
Anyway.
But so yeah, they did. So that class, when they talk about compilation, that one of the lab part was basically here are secure servers and here are servers that students set up. You've got to try to hack into both of them and document what you do. And you know what? They don't actually teach you anything about hacking.
They didn't teach us one thing at all in that class. I had the same class,
Yep.
and they didn't tell us what to do. It's like you just sort of had to do it on your own.
Yeah,
and
so you know what most kids did? They infected themselves with viruses because they'd go online and be like, yes, crack, hack, and they'd find some like Windows program that would purport to hack an IIS server, and then it would just proceed to destroy their own computer.
Yeah, the real problem I had in that class is what I did is I just went and looked. What I did in that class is I went to the Windows updates and I saw that there was a recent fix, a recent patch. So I said, aha, I will go get the proof of concept exploit for that patch that was just made today. I know they haven't fucking updated those dumbasses, right? And I knew that they were using old ass Windows as also. They had to. The rule was they had to have a Windows 98 machine. So I was like, ah ha ha ha, right? So I went and I downloaded the source code for the it was an MSN Messenger thingy, right? So all I had to do, and I even tested this on, I basically made a fresh computer, installed Windows 98 on it from the image, and then hit that computer, and then I was going to repeat the process, and it worked. It totally worked. All I had to do was run MSN Messenger, and then like open this file, and then basically it would open up a root command terminal.
Yep.
Right on that machine. It was the easiest thing in the world. So I went to the Windows 98 machine that I was only allowed to attack one of the other groups, not all of them. So I went to their only Windows 98 machine, which was a virtual machine, right? And what they had done is they had disabled every single the execution rights from the user that we could log in as to every single executable file in the entire file system, except for the extremely small handful that they were forced not to.
Yep.
And it's like, well, I can't run MSN Messenger.
And the worst part is,
so
the
now
first
what?
thing I thought, as every smart person thinks, and there's the old saying, amateurs attack technology, professionals attack people.
Exactly.
I was just gonna fucking go walk in and get physical access.
We
'cause I
weren't.
knew
We
where those
also
machines
were not
are.
allowed to
I
do
know.
physical access
We were
specifically.
told specifically that it wasn't a joke. The rule is you can't go attack them physically.
It's like before they said that, I was like, I'm going home to get my crowbar. I'm gonna come back within an hour and get an A in this class so easily.
Yep, and they were like, no, don't do it. Seriously, don't do it. Me saying don't do it isn't a test.
And it's not like I was going to be able to fool
It's like in
other
the King
students
Killer
in the same class who were on the lookout on purpose, right? It's like, and who, really they should make people just have normal, it's like everyone locked everything down to the point where they were just useless computers that couldn't do anything, right? Because they were anticipating what the class was. So you can't possibly learn anything. They should just force people to install default Windows, all the updates, and then, install a whole bunch of programs and then not be able to change anything on those user machines.
I'd make it a little more clever. It'd be a race. Like, you have to run all these computers and make them do a bunch of stuff. And your grade is if you can get them to do that stuff despite people attacking you. They also told us not
It
to...
was a very bad class.
They also told us not to DDoS the servers down, which was my go-to, so...
Yeah, it's like, that's another thing. I found another exploit that was pretty much a... if you DDoS this thing, then you can actually get root off of that, right? And I was like, well, how many, computers in this lab can I provision?
But basically, all the exercises came down to you either need to be a programmer to take this exploit and write code to use it, or you need to be a script kiddie and go find something online, which is just going to compromise you and it. It was a useless class.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Things of the day. I forgot this game existed until very recently. When I was a kid, an adult friend of my dad's gave me a whole bunch of pirated games.
So did everybody.
Yep. Because, when I think back, when I had my computer...
First time I saw Wolfenstein 3D was a similar situation.
The first games I ever got were pirated, and I didn't even realize that was a thing. People were just like, oh, you want to try this game? Here's a bunch of floppies. I was like, thanks.
Yeah.
I didn't even think.
I didn't even know.
So one of the games he gave me was called Life and Death. It's from 1988. I was obsessed with this game. This game is a disturbingly realistic simulator of hospital procedure, examination, and surgery centering on the lower abdomen.
Only the lower abdomen?
Yes. You can poke the patients and they'll, go, or not say anything. You can tickle them. You can get ultrasounds. You can get x-rays. You can prescribe medication. And there's a bunch of things that can be wrong with people. They can have a lower abdominal infection of some kind. They could have appendicitis. They could have all these things, gas. And you just had to be a doctor. It was super realistic and super tedious. If you think that these modern DS games of surgery are hard, play this fucking game. Good God. What I present to you is a speed run of a person performing an appendectomy.
Is it computer assisted or legit?
It looks legit. I never got the farthest I ever got.
Was cut them open and they die?
No, I figured out how to get the gas going, and I figured out when to inject them with atropine and all that stuff, and how to stop bleeding. The point where I always fuck up is when you get the periodontum.
Great.
Word.
I'm glad you're not a doctor.
The peritoneum, as Emily corrected me. I would always rupture it. Always.
Let me look what that
And then
up.
the patient would die. Basically, I would cut their bowels open and they would die.
I'm looking this up.
Now, there's a way to save them if you fuck that up, which I was never able to do.
Yeah, I think that's what you're trying.
This game is super hard, and this is a speed run. You should all watch it and play this game on DOSBox.
Okay, so
Don't forget to do Oh my God, there's a sequel. Life and Death 2, The Brain.
really, they went straight for the brain. Wouldn't you think that level 2 would be like upper abdomen, like rib breaking,
Oh my
heart
God, this one
surgeries,
looks
lungs?
way harder.
It's a brain surgery. Oh, those graphics are vastly improved.
I think that one of these games is on the Apple II GS.
Oh, but actually, the brain is severely.
Well,
not
that's
as
the
in-
skull.
Oh, okay.
They haven't cut that bit open yet.
Okay.
These games are so hard.
Anyway.
Also they're super gross because they're super realistic.
Oh, it's super DOS pixelated. It's not.
Yeah,
it's
but
not,
it's
I'm
still-
not even getting grossed out, and I'm usually,
It's still super realistic.
whatever.
Anyway,
Okay, so someone made this cute little video. It's just 2 minutes long, in which the D train. They're trying to coax the D train out of the tunnel.
this is adorbs.
It's cute. You should watch it if you're from New York City or you've been here. It's funnier. If you're not from here, you don't get the joke because we're better than you. I
I had that conundrum today, sitting on a train that's stuck because of some other bullshit, and then the local train comes up across the platform, and I debate, do I bail?
Yes.
Bailing was the correct choice in this case.
In
I'm
my
glad
case,
I did it.
basically my new policy is any sign of anything, immediate bail.
But bail to what? What if you're at like fucking 23rd Street?
Okay, and what train am I trying to get?
Well, you're on the 6th and you're trying to get home.
N. I switch to the N at 23rd. You can do that.
Can you?
Madison Square Park, there's N trains.
You have to walk all the way. Well, I guess you could walk over there.
Walk a little. It's not far.
Yeah.
It's a block.
Now, if you don't have an unlimited card, though, that's not a free transfer.
Oh no! Too bad I have an unlimited card because I'm the
I'm
best.
ditching my unlimited card because I calculated it is bullshit to have an unlimited card nowadays.
I've been thinking about it, but it's
If I
sort
bike,
of. I already.
If I bike one day every other week this summer, it's not worth it to have an
the
unlimited.
thing is, if it's raining and
you do a show.
I do a show is 3
Scott,
trips.
I read someone who calculated you have to use it twice a day, every weekday, and 8 times over the course of every weekend, or it's not worth it. Anyway. Meta moment. The book club book is a book.
It is The Player of Games by Ian M. Banks.
It has been described as being in our collective wheelhouse.
It is the wheelhouse. Have you read any of it yet?
Not yet, because I've been busy getting ready for, oh my God, PAX.
PAX East is really close. Let's talk a whole bunch about it.
Oh my God,
It's
PAX is
fucking
coming.
next week. As in, there is a weekend approaching. The weekend after the approaching weekend is PAX East.
We are doing
2013.
2 lectures at the PAX East, the PAX, the Penny Arcade Expo. At noon on Saturday, Mastering Game Mechanics Tabletop Workshop. At 1:30 p.m. on Saturday, same room, Practical Game Theory. Think of this as like Games 101, Games 203. This is like hardcore. We're going to teach you guys stuff.
We're also enforcing.
Yes.
So don't expect to see us too much because we'll be working, I guess, a shift each day or whatever it is. Whatever they tell me to do.
I put in primarily for hardcore main theater logistics. So maybe I'll be in there. Jam space. Maybe I'll be in there dicking around with my harmonica.
Oh, thank God. You'll be in
Yeah.
the jam space and not bothering anyone else.
Or I'm going for line entertainment.
Okay, I chose tabletop, info booth, and whatever. I don't give a shit, really.
You've got to print out a Bidoof for the info booth.
Maybe I will. Info badoof.
Also, Kineticon panel submissions are still open, though we are currently scheduling. And you know what? Someone just submitted like 15 panels, so good on you.
Nice.
Might have been multiple people, but those all came in today. I'm at work, and I just see this flood of panels coming in.
Hopefully they're not bad.
One of them looked really good. I didn't look at the rest of them yet.
14 look really bad.
14 Homestuck panels.
Great. We only need one, guys. One is enough. There's still more meta.
You want to do more meta?
A little bit.
All right, go for it. I didn't stop recording.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I didn't do anything. Don't do. What are you reading my body language?
Anyway, the Grand Prix is still ongoing.
Well, because it's kind of delayed, the backgammon one, because as I pointed out, Timo and I could mutually share a score of 1 times 10 to the 203
Anyway.
in the first round.
Sure. So the second round is backgammon. It will be backgammon. But I think, we have had much discussion after the announcement round of changing of the format specifically.
What, you don't want me to collaborate with someone to have a score of 1 times 10 to the 203?
I really don't think that it would matter that much.
I think it would matter heavily because no one else had the dedication to do that.
Anyway.
Also, because of the possibility of capturing pieces, a game could go on forever.
But why would you let it go on forever?
So that my score is effectively infinity.
Anyway. But what if you lose? Now your score is zero.
So
the other guy's infinity.
So me and Timo collaborate. One of us wins the 5 games, and at the end of it, his score is 5 times effectively infinity, and my score is 3 times effectively infinity.
So you're in big trouble. Where are you going to get 2 more infinities?
Yeah, so the next highest score is probably like 40, and I get a guaranteed second place, which is a shit ton of points in the Grand Prix.
Anyway, we're going to change the format. I have a feeling we're going to have to sacrifice at least one of the principles of the Grand Prix, and I think I have decided to sacrifice the principle of the Grand Prix won't take fucking forever, so it's probably going to last some months.
That's how it's going to go.
Yeah, so
because honestly, if you had to do the original timeline, I was going to do that first round infinity and then not compete in the rest of it because I'm busy, yo.
Right. So the Grand Prix is going to be a slow Grand Prix, right? Maybe, in fact, we should just change it to be forever ongoing. We just keep having rounds and we keep seeing who's the best. Of course, as the rounds go on, there'll be a lot less movement in the upper ranks, but you never know. Someone might bail and you can sneak up there with the...
I'd rather finish it and then you can start a new one with different parameters, like maybe one that isn't accessible. One that, PC games only... Gotta own them all.
Gotta have a real hardcore computer and a fast internet.
Gotta have a physical Atari.
Yeah, anyway, you just want to win. Don't worry, Rim. I have a feeling some of the rounds may be favorable to you. But yeah, I'm thinking now, maybe we'll, to make it, more fair, right? We're make it go a little longer, add some more rounds, push some of the time limits back on things, right? And so... Look for an updated post on the reformatted backgammon second round, and we'll see what happens. It's still an experiment too, right? It's like once we can figure out the logistics of this kind of thing, maybe, it could evolve into something better. I don't know.
Yep, and don't forget our relatively new ongoing show, Geeknights Presents, is continuing with Shoujo Kakame Utena. We're 5 in, 35 or so to go.
That's a lot.
Okay,
right. So
this was Scott's idea.
So, we're trying to think of a tech show. We're pretty much out of ideas. So if there's anything you want us to talk about at a Monday show, you should let us know about that. But one idea that I came up with just out of nowhere is a lot of these tech websites, what they do is they'll find a famous or semi-famous tech person and they'll sort of do a post like, what's in their bag? Like what, and they'll empty the person's bag out, take a photo of it, and ask them about all the gadgets they have and use frequently. So
I don't carry a bag anymore.
Great. So I'm thinking, hey, let's just do a show where we discuss sort of our technological arsenals. Like what are the gadgets and devices of technological nature or relatively advanced. I mean, even a fork is technology, right? I'm talking about like an advanced...
Fire!
You're right.
Fire!
The items of an advanced transistor-based,
Scott was really
technological
unhappy
nature.
with my questioning of the parameters of this discussion before the show.
Right? That you use frequently.
He was vexed. There was a little bit of consternation.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get talking into like what pens I've got or notebooks or,
I'm not gonna talk about that shit.
That's not Monday shit. That shit is all good, but it's not Monday.
So I wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy. Okay. So pretty much, if I think about what I interact with first and last, and what I interact with the most times throughout the day, it's my cell phone.
Well, obviously. So what phone do you have?
I still have my Samsung Nexus S.
And you don't feel like you need something better?
I refuse to upgrade until I'm forced to because there's no phone that small that exists that isn't a piece of shit.
Ding, ding, ding.
So I'm going to hold on to this phone until either Google forces me to make Google Glass work, or I physically break it, can't get another one. I've replaced it with a refurbished one already once. And I'm not going to get an iPhone because I'm morally opposed to the lockdown.
You realize the iPhone is probably less locked down.
Well, we'll see. Because
I mean,
the thing
in terms,
is,
a Verizon iPhone, as evil as Verizon
I don't
is.
have Verizon.
What?
I don't have Verizon.
I'm just saying you could switch, but
I don't want to. I've been on
locked,
Verizon.
It's not locked at all. I can go to any country with this phone with any SIM card, and it'll totally work.
Oh no, I'm just going to use iOS.
Yeah, but I mean, jailbreaking iOS is no different than rooting Android. It's the same shit.
True.
So what's the difference in lockdown?
Honestly, it's mostly
It's not
that
like
I
it's not like they give you a dev kit for the Android phone and say go nuts, kid. Right? Hack it all you want.
It's mostly, if you really want to get down to it, it's that I plan to, as much as is feasible, sideload bullshit for Glass if I get Glass.
Well, why do you need to sideload bullshit for Glass? The Glass is itself, right? What do you mean?
I need applications to do cool stuff.
You load those into the Glass themselves.
Not 100%. There's, have you read any of the documents about how this thing all works?
What documents are you reading?
About stuff
Because
on
it
the
says
internet?
Glass works with iPhone, so how is that going
It
to work?
does work with iPhone, but I think more cool stuff is going to come out for Android first.
Anyway, I think that here's my thinking, right, is that if Glass comes to be, which it will, and we're definitely going to have it by next year, right? Even if they don't give them to us early in the Explorers Club, we'll just buy them, right?
Yeah.
And that should be by the end of the year, right? So, a large phone will become still annoying and stupid, but slightly less annoying and stupid because you could just keep that large phone in your pocket and never take it the fuck out.
The problem is, if I have Glass, I actually want an even smaller phone.
Possibly.
Because I'll use it less. In fact, at that point, I just want a tiny brick that I stick in my bag and never touch again. I just charge it once a day wirelessly wherever I am, and that's it.
Anyway.
But no, seriously, I'm thinking about it. When I wake up in the morning, literally, my phone wakes me up. It replaced my alarm clock, 100%.
I still have a clock, but the phone has the alarm on it.
I also have a clock.
The only reason I have the clock is that if I open my eyes, I can see the time without having to grab and touch the phone.
I have glasses, and the clock is on Emily's side of the bed, so I can't actually see the clock, but it is the clock that I had in middle school.
I have an ice tube clock. It was actually a kit that I built.
Oh, I remember that.
You can get it from Adafruit. You buy it and then you solder it together.
I wake up because my alarm's going off. I reach over, I pick up my phone, I look at it. It's the first thing I see, and I fuck around the internet for like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I look at my phone, make sure the alarm's set, fuck around for 5 minutes, and go to sleep.
Yep.
So it literally bookends my life and is my source of data throughout the entire day.
No, I have iPhone 5, pretty much the same thing. Yeah. So what other things do I have?
Oh, the other reason I'm waiting is that when lockdown, think of it more in the sense of I'm not on contract right now. I don't want to be on contract with anyone for as long as possible.
Okay.
That way I can switch providers suddenly if I want to.
I just switched every 2 years and the contract runs out. And
yeah,
get a
but
new
I'm currently
one.
out of contract. So if
that's how I constantly have a new phone.
Yep, but if I upgrade or re-up or switch, I'll be locked in again. Because I don't really want to pay the $600 or $700
you could buy an unlocked phone.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have this Pebble watch that I got because Kickstarter.
Yeah, how's that working out for you?
On the one hand, when it works, it does one and only one thing well.
You see notifications.
You
without
see
having your
notifications
phone out?
on your arm without having to take your phone out of your pocket. The problem is, and I'm not sure how much of this is the fault of the Pebble and how much is the fault of the iPhone, it seems to forget to, I think the iPhone forgets to notify the Pebble, so you have to go into the iPhone and sort of like touch a bunch of stuff to get it to remember, for each app, like, yeah, by the way, Gmail app, you should notify. Oh, yeah, by the way, Twitter app, you should notify. And it takes like about a minute to do that.
So it's useless then.
It's a little bit annoying. I'm waiting for that iPhone watch so I can get rid of this Pebble watch.
Yep, I'm thinking about buying Apple stock ahead of that watch coming out. I think people are underestimating how crazy awesome a working AR watch will be.
Yep. Well, it's not an AR watch. It's really just a cell phone on your arm.
Yeah. Well, it's a display for your cell phone on your arm.
Well, I think
that will probably run iOS. Yeah, I saw that.
So that it'll be a device in itself and not necessarily something that needs to work with. Yeah, but I'll buy one of those day one, no matter what.
Yeah.
And maybe not if it's $1,000, but it won't be. Let's see. What other things?
So if we go in order of things I interact with that are notable, it's kitchen appliances, which Scott seems incredibly unhappy about
I
me
don't
talking
think
about.
kitchen appliances are applicable to Monday show.
These are technology.
We could do a whole Thursday show just on kitchen appliances.
We should, but I want to talk about these two things.
Why would we waste them all on Monday?
Because I interact with these. If we're talking about the 10 significant things I interact with on a daily basis.
Who said that? You're coming up with that 10 significant things out of nowhere.
Even 5. I don't interact with that
I'm
many
not
things.
saying any specific number. I'm saying, what is your technological arsenal?
Well, if it's my arsenal that I carry around with me, it's literally just my cell phone.
And that's it?
And possibly my laptop if I'm going somewhere where I'm going to do work at some point while I'm out there.
No, I have many more items. I got this Lenovo X201, which is the last one that had the good keyboard and the good touchpad.
You mean the slightly not the worst touchpad in the world, but still terrible touchpad? I don't like that touchpad.
I don't know. This one is... It's
way better than the X230, I'll agree.
My work, I have the X2, whatever, the one above this, but right? And that one, the touchpad is horrendously useless.
You know what?
This one is just fine.
Dell's actually have really nice touchpads,
Though
but...
the Apple touchpad is the best.
But every other aspect of Dell laptops makes me want to kill babies.
The Apple touchpad, the Magic Trackpad.
Well, yeah, I have my Lenovo X230, but I don't consider it part of my arsenal because I literally only carry it when I'm gonna need horsepower on the go.
I use mine at conventions. I use mine to bring here for podcasting. I use mine to compute if I don't want to get out of bed. I use it when I need a separate computer to be doing something, and I don't want my main computer to be doing it.
I do it for all those things, but it's not I interact with my Japanese fancy hot water heater way more often than I interact with my laptop because that shit saves me time.
Okay.
It keeps water at the exact right temperature for either coffee or tea, and it's just sitting there ready. Super efficient. And I just hit a button, and I make my tea.
Great. What other things do I have? I have
I have all the Geeknights stuff. In front of me, I got a Samsung SyncMaster 172X, and I got a Dell Ultra
That's my monitor that you took.
It is.
Okay.
You want it back?
Not really.
And I got a Dell Ultra Sharp 16x10, which I'm going to get a second one of those and get rid of this Samsung SyncMaster 172X.
I have 2 of that monitor.
I'm going to have 2 of this monitor. I'm going to put them like this.
I have them on arms. I think they're Ergo whatever arms. If you look at my Amazon review history, you'll see what kind of arms
I'm not
going to
arm it until I replace my desk with a permanent desk.
Your desk would not arm well at all.
At
least not with the kind of arms I got.
I would get a different kind of desk, I think, in the long run. I would get one that I could hang. Basically, I need one that I can actually fit the monitor on. The monitor is too big to fit in the monitor hole. So it's in front of the monitor hole.
I didn't like that desk when you got it, but you got it.
Oh, I loved it up until this point. I fit that gigantic CRT in there for the longest time.
Anyway, let's see. What other things do I have? I have an
But if we talk about all the Geeknight stuff, I got my awesome computer, but I haven't really futzed with that computer much in a long time, and it's so powerful, I won't need to upgrade it for easily another year.
Probably even longer than that.
Well, I'm going to have to add a new video card to it within the next year. Because I have a GTX 260 in there.
That's pretty old right there.
Yeah. I'm going to get a 680. I'm just waiting for a price drop.
I would just wait. I would just get a 780 when it came out.
Depends.
Maybe it depends.
I don't know if the 780 comes out, I might get the 680 for super cheap.
Yeah, but it'll still be... Now the 780 will be
my
like,
260 plays all my games at pretty high frame rates anyway. I only want the 680 for Premiere live rendering of effects.
Yeah, it's like, on the one hand, I totally agree. I had a 460 and I just got rid of it. All right, and the 460, when I got rid of it, could still play all the games at pretty high frame rates. But now that I have the 680, right, I can play every game. All the games.
Scott, can you
play
play
full settings and full frame vertical sync, no matter what?
Of your last 10 hours of PC gaming, how many of them have been something that wasn't Natural Selection 2?
All Natural Selection 2.
Natural Selection 2 runs fine on my computer.
But are you playing at full settings?
Actually, no, I'm not.
Are you playing at 19 whatever?
I am playing at my full resolution.
Okay. But yeah, I have the full settings.
Oh, God, Scott, if I
and-
couldn't play my games in my full native resolution, fuck that noise.
Right. I'm playing in full res, 100% max every possible setting, even anti-aliasing, even anisotropic
Apparently in the new
filtering.
Tomb Raider, there is an effect called Tress something that's just her hair.
Okay.
And if you turn it on, you lose between 15 and 30 FPS. It's
Yeah.
so
I have
crazy.
vertical sync at 60 FPS on all the time, 100% of the time. If you look at the benchmarks, right, it's just a flat line. And I can run fraps at 60 FPS recording while I'm playing and still not lose frames.
I have a feeling the fraps is
It
more.
cost-
Are
now-
you writing to an SSD?
It also works writing to the magnetic drive. I tested.
Nah.
It's crazy, you know. But I mean, that's a 6 gigabit per second serial AT either way, right? I mean, it's not like it's a slow magnet drive. But yeah, the video card was $500. But having the best video card, once you have it, you realize sort of like, oh, that's why those crazy people SLI and crazy shit. 'cause
I've had that feels.
It is real nice.
I remember when I spent $400 on a creative graphics blaster extreme.
This is why I will never buy, well, unless I win a lottery or something, I should never buy a Ferrari because then I won't be able to drive a different car. I'll be like, what the fuck is this? Really fast, not $100,000 car. Eh.
Well, Scott, I think this applies to other aspects in your life. How would you feel about going to the Outback Steakhouse?
Yeah.
Yeah. See what happens?
Yeah.
See what happens?
Yeah, I see what happens.
Actually, I could feel Outback because they make a particular kind of average prime rib that's actually pretty good.
I mean, I really like that fucking bloomin' onion thing.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
That's basically
You
carnival
can get it.
food,
You can
though.
get it at Chili's also, and I think those
I'm not
might
going
be,
to Chili's.
I think those both might actually be owned by the same people. I'm not
They
sure.
probably are. It's all the same freezing.
It's that same
syrup.
onion thingy.
Whatever. Someone I knew who was restaurant, how Penn Jillette was like some people are circus. Someone I knew who was restaurant said that all those restaurants, all their desserts and most of their entrees are literally from the same factory and they're just frozen, delivered. And the
Yeah, most of the food is like
and the
that.
quote unquote chefs just warm them and then serve them. There was a term
Everyone
for
knows
that.
that.
No, most people don't know that.
That's
Scott.
not a secret.
Most people don't know that.
Okay. Well, my dad works in food service, so I know a lot of these things.
Yes, most people don't know that. I had a conversation with someone a month ago or so where they were shocked that chocolate cake for dessert at the vast majority of restaurants is the same frozen chocolate cake.
It's not baked at that restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's people at Applebee's who know how to make chocolate cake.
There's people at Applebee's who know
and
anything.
cheesecake. And they bake them every day.
Yep.
And they always have them ready, right? Oh yeah. Even Capitol Grill, some place that's fancy in a chain. You'd be surprised what goes on in the back.
I would not be surprised at all.
No, you shouldn't.
You can
be.
start to tell which restaurants have or don't. Usually comes down to it's one of those, you can tell a rich person's dessert because it involves some weird ritualistic preparation at the table.
Yeah. I mean,
Like-
if you really think about it, right? You go to, let's say I go to a fancy Italian restaurant and you get a fancy pasta dish, right? It's pretty good. And it costs what, $15 maybe? Average place, right? If I just go to a everything lunch place and have them make me a custom pasta, which takes them about 3 minutes, that's basically the same exact thing the fancy restaurant did for $15.
Well, because it's not
for
actually the
half as
fancy
much-
restaurant. That's the
Right.
normal restaurant.
For half as much money, and you know,
It's a diminishing return. You spend $500 on the video card. The $900 video card's not that much better.
no, you don't need the $900.
If you go to the Italian restaurant where it's $60, that's some amazing pasta, but is it $50 more?
Right. All I'm saying is
good?
that a reasonable person buys a $300 video card, and that's enough to last a long time. But if you haven't had $500 video card, when you have it,
You know what?
it's real hard to go back to $300 video card.
New PC gaming is your thing, as opposed to just a dabblance, then yeah, you should have the second best video card. at any
Also,
given
it's
time.
real nice. Once I got Premiere to actually use the GPU,
Yeah.
everything renders in real fucking time all the time. Like just previews, just play like it's a video I downloaded and I'm playing it in VLC.
No, what's interesting is mine just do that too. The only time that is not the case is if I have multiple scaled 1080p streams simultaneously.
All right,
And I'm
anyway.
trying to do that multi-camera mode, then no, I can't.
Yeah,
It
anyway.
just doesn't.
Let's move on to other
All right, so
technological items that we
the things I
own.
use every day that none of you care about is I got a whole bunch of analog audio equipment.
Such as?
So I got my Beta 87A fancy hypercardioid microphone.
Tell us about it.
It's a condenser microphone that's hypercardioid,
Okay.
meaning It's hyper directional. Like just now, I'm now at the side of the microphone slightly. Scott can verify. I am not far away from the microphone. And now I'm back in front of the microphone like normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like night and day, the pickup patterns. Scott has a less expensive microphone because he refused to buy the fancy one when I upped the microphones.
What do I need it for? Is anyone have a problem with how I sound on this podcast?
It just makes it easier for me.
That's not my problem.
Yeah.
Why
But
should I
like,
pay money to make things easy for you? You don't do anything to make things easier for me.
Except all the audio and video editing for Geeknights.
Except making annoying noises when no one wants, everyone tells you to stop. Exactly. So when you stop making annoying noises, I will stop doing everything I can to make your life miserable as well.
But we upgraded those years ago.
It's not like microphones. Microphones last a lot longer than video cards.
Well, the thing is, we used to use the SM57s, which are
Or
really good
58.
microphones, but they're ancient technology.
Yep.
But they're really good. We got these just because we wanted to step up. We'll never really need to upgrade beyond these ever unless I break them.
Well, unless someone has like a huge sudden advance in microphone technology, which I highly doubt. If it hasn't,
What I want, talk about technology I want.
they could miniaturize them somehow.
No, I want to get the exact same lavaliers that the TED Talk people use because those
so
are just
expensive.
yeah, they're about $300
A major
each.
advance would be like making those really cheap.
They're about $300 each, not counting the transmission stuff you need for the wireless.
Yeah, the receivers and
Yeah.
okay.
But all our audio equipment is actually from some of the earliest days of Geeknights. We have not upgraded this shit at all.
Here, why don't you tell us about that little box there? It says fire on it.
Oh, so the Fire Studio, I bought this, like 2009? I bought it some years ago. But basically, for the longest time, the way Geeknights worked is we had a mixer. I'll post a picture of our first mixer. It's kind of cute.
Didn't we give that to Nuri?
Yeah, I think we gave it to Nuri
Okay.
because she was doing her Artist Alley podcast. That was a long time ago. So that mixer, we would plug into this actually originally I plugged it into an internal sound card, which was actually my graphics blaster, my sound blaster, the last sound blaster, the Sound Blaster Live that I spent some ridiculous amount of money for at RIT. And let me tell you what, the era of the internal sound card ended around the year 2000. Fuck internal sound cards. The garbage ass pieces of shit. They are worthless.
I use mine just so I can get the front headphone jacks on the computer.
Okay, playing audio, they're fine. You're not, if you notice the static and the noise.
Well, I had static and noise in the previous computer, but the new computer, no.
You still do. You just don't notice it because it doesn't really matter.
It's much less than it
Yeah.
was. The other one used to be like bzzz.
But it is in there. So early on, we switched to a little cheapo external USB sound card. And it was like night and day in terms of sound quality. But wasn't great. We could really only record 2 channels, and even then, that was by doing something so awesome and ghetto. Scott was on the left channel, I was on the right channel. I recorded in stereo.
Yeah. I mean, if I really needed to, I would get one of those gaming headsets that comes with the USB sound card as part of it.
I have that as well. In fact, in my computer right now, I have 5 active sound cards.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, no, 4 because right now the gaming headset's unplugged for some reason.
Okay. So, other things.
But yeah, so I bought the Fire Studio Mobile, which was the cheapest good Firewire audio thing because USB basically sucks for audio. It just doesn't have... There's not good support for it. I need...
professional audio, right?
Yes.
If you're just doing your gaming, USB is just fine.
But I have a Fire Studio which has 8 channels on it. It has 2 pre-amplified microphone inputs with phantom power in the front. We could just plug our microphones directly into this thing and just record straight up in super high quality.
Yeah, so the reason this thing is so great is you connect it to your computer with a Firewire cable, and then in Adobe Audition, right? Everyone talking shows up separately on their own tracks. So if like one person's too loud, you can easily just make that track quieter instead of having to somehow split the people apart or do anything like that. It's like
now the thing has tons
everything
of inputs,
is way easier.
Tons of outputs. I didn't actually realize because I didn't need it at the time, but it has this crazy MIDI functionality that I might start using if I start trying to make music again.
Great.
But it's super useful, but I don't actually use the microphone inputs on the front of it. I've never plugged shit into those things because I have a gigantic analog mixer and a gigantic analog compressor. And you know what? To this day, having an analog compressor and a good preamplifier inline analog before you digitize is way better than recording in a high bit rate and a high sort of ceiling, digital all the way, and then doing it all in post.
Mm-hmm.
Audio compression still really needs to be done for this kind of audio at the analog level, partly just because we don't have the technology to have a microphone that has such a wide dynamic range. My voice, doing what I'm doing right now, will completely surpass the dynamic range of the microphone in the course of an episode of Geeknights.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, all right, so let's try to think of other things.
The mixer's gigantic. It's some Xenix piece of shit, but you know what? It works fine.
Yeah, it means a mixer, right? It either works or it doesn't work.
No, actually, the argument of it works or it doesn't work primarily applies to digital stuff. With analog audio equipment, there is a wide degree of works or doesn't work. It is literally the better connectors sound better because there's less noise.
Yeah, but I mean, once you get to the level of, not $10, though, usually there's not enough noise to matter for all but the most professional of applications.
There's
like
significant
professional
noise.
recording studio or gigantic arena concert.
There is significant noise in the mixer we use, actually. You know how I got around that? That's part of the reason why I bought the nicer microphones, because they have much higher gain on their own, so I don't need to put the preamp up as high. The preamps are all the freaking noises.
The quality of the preamps in the mixer.
Yes, but a standalone preamp that's good is like $500.
Well, you could, I mean, that's the thing, is you can get a preamp and plug it into the non-amplified channels on the mixer as
But if
well.
I was doing that, at that point, I would go preamp direct into the Fire Studio.
Fire Studio,
The Fire Studio has its own preamps, but they actually kind of suck.
Well, I mean, very rarely do anyone put the highest, awesomest preamps into something. They're usually on their own.
Anyway, if you want to hear me talk about the audio equipment, I think I did a show on this in like 2007. Yeah, it hasn't changed much.
Yeah. Let's talk about camera equipment. All right. So I have a Panasonic GF2 camera, which is a micro four thirds camera, which means it's sort of like a DSLR, but it's not. What it has, it's a mirrorless DSLR. The way a DSLR works is there's a mirror, a physical mirror, and you look in the camera, and there's light, that goes in the lens of the camera on the front, hits the mirror bounces the light up, then there's another mirror that bounces it forward again in sort of like an S shape, and that's how you can look into the viewfinder and see out the front of the camera. And when you push the button to take a picture, the mirror moves physically up, right, out of the way, so that the light coming in the lens hits the sensor, which then records the picture. In the olden days, instead of a digital sensor being there would be film, right? So a mirrorless camera, you open it up and you take the lens off and you just see the sensor just fucking right there. It's like, there it is, no mirror in the way. And you go, oh shit, don't let any dust get on that motherfucker. And you close it back up.
It's kind of like when you take a CPU out of your motherboard, you're like, I gotta put it back.
Yeah, so what this means is that the camera, because there's no mirror in there, can be much, much smaller than a DSLR. But the quality is almost as good. Obviously not as good. Obviously, you can't look into the viewfinder and see out the front of the camera. What you see is just a screen on the back like any other digital camera, and it's showing you what the sensor is seeing, right? You can get a digital viewfinder to get that experience of holding the camera up to your face, but inside of that is just a very tiny monitor.
Well,
right?
the holding the camera up to your face
stabilizes it.
Well, no, in video especially is actually really important, which is why I spent a lot more money to get the camera I got.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's an old camera now, but when I bought it, the Panasonic HDC HS700, which Panasonic has gobbledygook bullshit when it comes. There's like 100 different models of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a handycam. It's kind of the upper end of prosumer, because anything beyond this is going to be a sort of for real studio camera.
Right.
It's 1080p, 60 FPS. It actually is pretty good quality, all things considered. Pretty much all the Geeknights video you see is shot with this thing, and it was actually really cheap. I spent like $1,200 on it, but it has, and part of the reason why it was expensive is I can have this slide out screen, or I can pull out an eyepiece, and inside of there is just a tiny LCD.
Yep.
Just a little baby LCD. But you know what? When you're videoing in a dark room, that shit be useful in a big way. Also, if you're videoing in a super sunny situation, if you're videoing where you really need precision and you can't be distracted by just stuff going on around you, that viewfinder is so important to being a good cameraman.
But yeah, the Micro Four Thirds camera, the other thing about it, right, besides being mirrorless, is
It's
that...
the future.
Well, no. Is that the lens mount is this Micro Four Thirds standard, which is somewhat more open. I mean, like if you can buy a Sony mirrorless camera, the Nex 5 and the Nex 7, the Nex 7 is actually one of the best mirrorless cameras there is, if not the best, even though I hate Sony. But the only lenses you can get for that fucker are these like handful of Sony lenses, and that's it, because it's got some weird mount. The Micro Four Thirds mount is sort of openish, so there's all kinds of crazy things you can buy, and there's even all kinds of crazy adapters you can buy. So I can go and get like some old ass lens from an old school 4/3 camera, get this little adapter and stick it on there, and it'll totally work as long as the camera's in manual mode. So if you want to try out all sorts of weird attachments and things, and you don't want to get the real DSLR action, the Micro Four Thirds is definitely the way to go.
The reason I said it was the future, because one of my coworkers was like, hey, I want to get a camera for my son who thinks he wants to get into photography. And I recommended some of the kind of the mid-range Micro Four Thirds Lumixes just because they're a good price point for him. Because they're, it's a kid who might not follow on forever. You don't want to buy the most expensive camera, but you don't want to buy him a point and shoot because then he'll just use a cell camera instead.
Exactly.
So I found multiple articles of professional photographers in their blogs that were basically saying they have, like $4,000 like crazy DSLRs, but more and more in their professional shoots, they're using their Micro Four Thirds cameras, the mirrorless ones, because the ease of use compared to the loss of quality, it's a done deal. They get better pictures with the Micro Four Thirds because they carry it with them everywhere. They use it more often. They can set up their studio shots faster. And they just made all these arguments how that's basically the future and that big form factor is going to slowly disappear.
Well, I mean, not for like, some things, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, for some things, like, yes, that like I have in the palm of my hand a pretty tiny 1080p 60 FPS camera.
Well, I mean, I have a GoPro. That's a pretty tiny 4K.
Yep.
Right? Whatever camera, right? So...
Did you get your new GoPro?
No, I'm not gonna.
Then you don't have it in your hand.
I'm just saying.
You don't have 4K.
I'm saying it exists.
In fact, the GoPro only does 1080p 30.
The GoPro Hero 2, which we have.
Yes.
Yes.
But actually, the video on that's not that great because of heavy compression.
I use the 720/60.
This thing, the camera on my hand, gets a much more close to native format. It's much better quality. But this thing is tiny and does crazy, crazy, crazy high quality video compared to what most people have. And even if we get to a future where a RED style camera is like this, there's still going to be the situation where you need the crazy, gigantic, durable camera, mounted on the helicopter with gyroscopes to do some crazy video.
Right.
Until we replace all video with CG.
But the thing is, like, even, the 4/3, it's in, the Lumix, whatever, mirrorless, you look at those pictures and you're like, wow, those are really good pictures, way better than cell phones or point and shoots or anything.
But then I look at some crazy good photographer.
You look at a DSLR and you're like, well, yeah, not totally the best still. There's still a gap there.
Yep.
I would still, if I had that DSLR, it would still be way awesome. It's still better.
Yep. But
anyway.
at the same time, there's the argument to be made that the
if you just showed if you put the two pictures next to each other, people would be able to tell. But if you just showed them, the one picture on its own, people be like, wow, awesome picture.
Scott, I see pictures people took with their iPhones and little bullshit lenses they stuck to them that look better than some professional photographs I've seen.
That's true. People are able to
Skill in photography can cover a lot of technology.
It covers way too much, right? It's like people who know what they're doing. It's like you can take these fucking amazing pictures, like the shittiest 640 by 480 digital cameras, and it's like, how the fuck did you do that? Anything I take with that looks just like a blurry piece of shit. You can't even tell.
You know what I don't use anymore? Printers.
I have one. I
have one. Every time I print with it, I got to stand there and shove the paper through because it can't roll properly
Mine
anymore.
works just fine. I have a brother something. It actually does double-sided, the kind where it sucks the paper
I know
back
you
in
do because I have the old
spits
Geek
it out
House
again.
Samsung, which you know what? Same ink cartridge. Well, toner cartridge.
Yeah. Black and white laser printers, everybody, right?
Because what do you use your printer for?
How
You're going to
often-
print out a ticket from Megabus because they refuse to look at your cell phone.
Right. How often do you actually need to print something in color? You can just go to FedEx, Kinko's, whatever the fuck print shop, right? You rarely need to print in color. 99% of the time you still need to print, if you need to print at all ever, is going to be black and white. Black and white laser gives you the cheapest, price per page, the fastest. It's just the best, and for actual. So if you need a printer at all, which you should avoid getting if at all possible, black and white laser printer of some kind.
Yep.
I got the highest rated
Because
one
the
on
inkjet, if
Amazon.
it sits there for a month and then you print, you're going to waste a bunch of ink and there's all this trouble. Inkjets are dead for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think inkjets are dead, period. I think the only people who really would still get inkjets and things are like if you have kids who are printing out colored things like school projects all the time or some shit.
Are you
The
kidding?
schools are
Do you know
still
how
old
expensive
fashioned.
that would be?
Because schools are old. That's the only time in my life I printed a lot of color things was like for high school projects and whatnot.
At
Or-
RIT, I would print out art to stick on my wall.
I would do that. Yeah, and that was what I was doing at RIT.
I printed it on photo paper so it looked all glossy. until
Printed
you
out
got
a
up close
picture
to
of
it.
Choo Choo with a White Castle.
Yep,
and
yep, I remember that
various
picture.
web comics.
I remember that picture.
Right.
I had this crazy CG picture. It was like a girl looking up into this moonlight with cherry blossoms. It was beautiful. One day, this nerd came into my dorm room because he knew I was in the anime club and that I was running for the e-board or whatever. And he was doing an article for a class and for the school newspaper on like fans and anime in the school or whatever. And he sees this picture I got printed out. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a fan of," and I think he said palette something. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't actually know what this picture was from." And then he's like, "Oh," and he didn't say anything. And I was like, "Is it porn?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Are you a fan of it?" And you thought I was a fan of it too. And he was like, "Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah."
Okay, this is going on for a while.
Want to just stop?
But I have a feeling that people want to hear more about the technological things.
Good. We'll
that
do
we
another Monday
own.
show on it.
We should just do Thursday.
Oh, you know what I could talk about? My Morants. I got shit to say about that.
We should.
Save that for another time, though. I've gone over an hour. It's done. I'm hungry. I heard the doorbell, so Fresh Direct came, and I want to eat the zucchini bread that's in there. Something fierce. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.